spoilers? Oh, lots and lots of spoilers.
Good afternoon, Mr. Phelps. The men you see in your folder are Meglo Max Levine, a known criminal whose record stretches longer than a country mile. Generally into numbers games and confidence schemes, he's taken his activities a step too far and is now trying to take over a fictional South American government. At his side is Mongrel Mike Luce, a hitman with hash marks that go all the way to the floor, across the living room, and into the trash can. We have reason to believe that they're entirely made up, as this mongrel can't even spell the word gun. Your mission, Jim, should you decide to accept it, is to watch 1996's Mission Impossible, starring Tom Cruise, and decide if it stacks up to the original TV show, or if it's just another piece of action fluff with Cruise hanging from the ceiling. When you find out, let us know, won't you? This podcast will self-destruct in about an hour. Good luck, Jim. Oh, and Spanus. Yes, we are in the middle of I Made from TV Love You, a series about old, dusty TV shows made into big, dusty new movies. And this certainly is one of them. Before we dive any deeper, let's get to last week's poll. Well, no. Before we get any further, let's talk to Max. Max, what have you got to say for yourself?
Dun, 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 and so on.
Well, glad we paused for that. Anyway, let's get to last week's poll question, which...
Did I mention I'm hanging from the ceiling in an elaborate harness that rotates me 90 degrees randomly?
Sure gets me hot. Anyway, let's get to last week's poll question.
That's why I do it.
Which, as you might recall, went something like this. What unusual or fantastic movie setting would you want to visit? There were things to be said, and you said them. Val, the person who suggested this poll question and who earned sextuple bumpy bucks for doing so, answered, quote, there are sextuple. Quote, there are so many worlds I'd love to visit. One of the planets of Star Wars is an obvious choice, and what prompted this suggestion. Disney did an amazing job at the theme parks. I could spend all day wandering through that area. Area. I was watching Metropolis last night and thought that would be an amazing place to see up close, walk among all those Art Deco buildings. The world of Blade Runner. Even Oz would be a fascinating destination to see just the day-to-day workings of the city. Might also be fun to see the world we know, but as if things like superheroes existed. Walk down a New York street and have Spider-Man swing overhead just as if he's another subway. Another subway? Or see Batman drive by, or maybe a couple of Ninja Turtles and make the rounds. End quote. Ninja Turtles. Don't think I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
But thanks, Val.
Sewer-dwelling reptiles, yeah.
Next is Vince, that kooky coin collector from Canada. He said, quote, I would love to visit the plateau on The Lost World since I love dinosaurs, or the town in Disney's Pinocchio, though maybe I did as it was supposedly inspired by Prague, which is one of my favorite places. I have always wondered what the world looked like on the ground in Kubrick's 2001. If space looked like that amazing, surely everyday life on Earth did too, end quote. That's actually really interesting. He's thinking well outside the movie's box. So, yeah, nice one, Vince. Yeah. Geneva Brunetti gives us, quote, I mean, Hogwarts is an easy answer, but pretty genuine. Even going to the parks and immersive experiences at Universal were completely amazing. Imagine if there was real magic and Hogwarts quality food. I can totally see that, Geneva. Hogwarts quality food tends to move, doesn't it? Chocolate frogs.
It tends to talk, too.
Yeah, but anyway, thank you, Geneva. Dave offered, quote, I would like to go visit Odin at his court in Valhalla as depicted in the Avengers movies, but only if they would treat me as an honored guest, as their hospitality should be awesome, end quote. At the very least, there would be mead. Lots and lots of mead.
Yeah. Lots of mead.
Thanks, Dave. Jamie Kleinert said, quote, Narnia. Also, Doctor Strange's 24-hour astral reading room, end quote. Spoken like a true reader. Thank you, Jamie. The Weasel did not, strangely, bring up the Star Wars holiday special. Oh, crap, I just did.
He didn't want to hang out on Kashyyyk?
Yeah, whatever. No, instead he posted, quote, the Ninja Turtle sewer lair, easy, quote, end quote. Cowabunga, dude.
Cowabunga, indeed.
Yes. Richard Tatum's answer was, quote, the spirit world of Spirited Away, end quote. Ooh, another animated answer. Cool beans. So how about you, Max? Where would you like to go traipsing about?
Honestly, I'd like to if the laws applied to me, I'd like to hang out in the Warner Brothers Bugs Bunny world.
I think you'd die.
No, that's the thing. If the cartoon laws applied to me, like I couldn't be hurt, or if I did, I would just snap back.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, I'd like to visit the world of Roger Rabbit, where humans and toons can interact. I think that'd be just fascinating. There were so many things they didn't cover.
Well, of course, and they have that border, so you can be in real world and then drive through that one tunnel in LA that they always shoot movies in. Blade Runner, this thing, all sorts of other things. I think Back to the Future 2 or 3 or whatever.
And is that the Mulholland Tunnel? Or?
No, I forget what it is, but it was also in a movie called Bad Moon Rising with Tommy Lee Jones. It's been in everything.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, on the other side, it's cartoon land, and as we saw with what's his name in Roger Rabbit, all those rules apply. So cool, good choice.
What about you?
I would choose Star Trek. Star Trek is my childhood favorite show, and I would go up to them and I would just go, "You can't keep using the transporter; it's murder! No."
Yes, and then you would be locked up in a. But they don't have. They don't call them mental hospitals
penal
or anything.
colony.
I'm sure. No, it wouldn't even be a penal colony because you're just crazy. So it'd be whatever the 24th century version of a sanatorium would be.
Lord Garth.
That's it. Yeah, you'd be hanging out with Lord Garth, and you'd also be hanging out with Yvonne Craig in green body makeup. That would not be such a bad thing.
Yeah, but she blows up. But anyway.
Oh, well, yeah.
I would like to give my thanks to everyone that participated.
Yes,
as usual,
cool.
we love hearing about you. And as always, you all get Bumpy Bucks, the cryptocurrency that, while utterly made up, did not crash this week.
That's right. It has maintained exactly the same value since its inception, and I don't think any other cryptocurrency can make that claim.
No. Trust Bumpy Bucks. It's stable. Get it?
Yes.
Wink. In Bumpy we trust.
We will be replacing Mike next week with a small pile of dryer lint.
I think a medium-sized pile. This week we have a new question to tickle your tickler. We'd like to know, has product placement ever made you want to buy the thing shown in the movie, or have you even done so? Let us know, but not yet. We have a show to do. The show. Trivia. And this is about Mission Impossible. Remember, that's the film, because I know that was 10 minutes ago. Mission Impossible budget, $80 million.
Boy, I wonder how much of that went to Tommy.
Well, he produced the film. He actually... and apparently, if I remember correctly, I didn't put this in trivia, but he waived his $20 million fee for points on the film. Let's see if that was a wise choice. Yes. What do you think the take on this film was?
Oh, boy. 80 million? I'm going to go with 400 million.
You're close. $458 million.
Wow.
Correct.
Wow.
That's a lot of million.
That's many, many millions.
So that scene, the one we're all tired of seeing where Tom Cruise falls from the ceiling on a rope and barely keeps from touching the floor. Seems he had to do that numerous times as he kept hitting his head, outtakes I'd like to see, until he balanced himself by stuffing his shoes with coins.
Coins? That's okay. Sure.
Coin.
Zoinks! It's the cookie coin collector.
There are no gunfights in this movie, oddly enough.
That's true.
Not a one. Supposedly, the original script had all the old members of the IMF coming back only to be killed in the opening sequences, not entirely unlike Police Squad. Although not humorously. Martin Landau, who originally played Rollin Hand in the TV show, saw the early script and really did not like it at all. He did not like the final film either, as he said it had become what the show was not, an action movie. The original show, he felt, was more of a mind game, where the IMF came in and left without anyone actually knowing they were there.
Interesting.
Greg Morris, who played Barney Collier, he's also from the original cast, left halfway through the screening of this film, calling it, quote, an abomination, end quote.
Oh, boy.
Apple Computer paid...
Wait. What about Peter Graves? He was still alive.
I'm getting to him.
Oh, okay.
I just put him out of order because I'm going to have to work up to doing it. Peter Graves. Yeah. Apple Computer paid $15 million to have their stuff featured in the movie, as this was the point where they were not doing so well, if you can even imagine that.
Yeah.
Who has all the money? Apple does, yeah. Emilio Estevez is uncredited in an opening role. He was brought in as the director thought it would be quite shocking to the audience to see his character die. I admit, usually you don't see a big name go, but he went.
First 5 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. The oft-impersonated Peter Graves didn't want to reprise his role as he didn't like the way his character was used. Seems like most of the old cast was not in favor of this film. I'm Peter Graves.
And I would like to point out that Peter Graves went to the University of Minnesota.
Yes. Apparently he did. No Academy Awards were harmed in the making of this film. It was up for a Razzie for Worst Action Film to make over $100 million. Boy, there is a category.
That's a very specific category.
Yeah, apparently they hate action films. And really, all sorts of other exciting bits. Too exciting for this show. Before we move on, though, Max, do you know any other trivia you'd like to interject here?
Just like to point out that clearly this thing was a hit, as there have been no fewer than 6 Mission Impossible movies so far, and there are 2 more coming out back-to-back in 2022 and 2023.
And they're all great. Right. So there's this plot. Why do I keep doing this? Why do I pick the convoluted ones? All right.
Yeah, deep breath.
Time to unconvolute. This will be a very shortened version of the plot, but yeah. Spy stuff. It's the dreams of legends, or something. Somewhere, a Russian baddie is being bamboozled by none other than Jim Phelps and his troop of sneaky bastards, the IMF, or Impossible Mission Force. With Ethan Hunt in heavy makeup, played by Tom Cruise, the evildoer is soon sobbing and giving out the information they need. With a quick flourish, the victim is out cold, the set is moved aside, and the IMF makes their escape, leaving the flunky holding the bag. What the team got out of it was the name of another bad guy who's after the knock list, which is a document that has CIA deep cover code names as well as their agents' corresponding real names. Should this list make it out into the open, it would mean death for the CIA undercover guys all over the world. So another IMF sting operation is planned to catch the next bad guy in the act and blow the whole operation sky high. Or something. Suddenly, the IMF team starts dropping like flies. Though they try to abort, the only one left standing is Ethan, who must now try to prove that he wasn't the one who killed his entire team. Oh, and it turns out that the whole operation itself was a scam. The CIA knew there was a mole selling information, and they think it was Ethan from the start. Ethan gets away and starts to slowly turn the tables, enlisting the real mastermind behind the theft of the knock list to try and clear his name and catch the real mole and killer of his team. Lots of things happened related or pertaining to action. The film may contain action-like elements. Does Ethan succeed? Will Tom Cruise save the world and stand head and shoulders above lesser men? Will there be 6 sequels over a period of 25 years? Only time will tell.
The lowdown.
Okay, that's just mean. We all know Tom Cruise is not very tall.
Where's Mr. Cruise's box? Okay. And it's fine, because this is nothing new. There have been plenty of leading men that themselves were not tall. I'm mean. I'll admit it. So the question I usually start this off with older films. Max, did you see this when it came out?
I did.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure I did.
I
remember explosions. I'm not. No, I did. It was a big deal, especially It was a big deal when it came out. I'm pretty sure I did see it.
I want to say, too, that the style of action and the although, to be fair, things have gotten so much more action-y since then, but the level and depth of action in this film, the stunts and stuff, I think kind of help set a precedent for that kind of thing afterwards. When I went to watch this film, I was like, wait, this was 25 years ago? But it was.
One of the things I noticed, I'm sure talk about this because it's one of the most iconic scenes, the whole break-in at the Langley mainframe, which I'm not even going to, I can't even talk about a bunch of the stuff that just doesn't make any friggin' sense.
Yeah.
It really reminded me of the later movie, the Charlie's Angels movie we talked about last week, the sequence where they're breaking into a vault, which is almost beat for beat the same scene.
Yeah.
And I guess you could argue it's a tribute I could argue it's a friggin' ripoff.
Well, I mean, how many times in various movies, and I think there was even like more than one kids animated film where the stupid scene of him falling and spreading his arms and legs out was parodied. Or
The whole harness scene that, I don't know, I'm sure there's a name for it. I don't know what it is, flying buttress or something.
will you say the words harness and buttress in a sentence again, please?
I will not. But I will on our OnlyFans page.
Yeah, sure. It's right there with you can buy your way in with Bumpy Bucks when they exist.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, hell, they did that in, I think, Shrek 2. They had a parody of that. They do that in everything. The whole falling out of the ceiling on basically marionette strings.
And I am mean, but I would just love to see the outtakes where he just smacks his head over and over again.
Yeah, I'd like. All right, I'm in. Bonk, ow. Okay, now ow. Bonk, ow, bonk, ow.
And would you want to be the EAD on that set that had to call out, more rolls of quarters for Mr. Crow's shoes? Quarter fetcher. Quarter fetcher. That's my whole freaking tagline in this movie. Quarter fetcher, whatever. Girl.
Yeah. Some poor grip or best boy was tasked with shoving quarters into Tom Cruise's socks.
Thank you, best boy. You're humble and lovable. Bless you, sir.
Bless you, sir.
Yeah. So speaking of, actually we weren't speaking of this, but whatever. In the trivia, we talked about how at least 3 members of the original cast, shall we say, didn't like this film even before it was made. The opening of the show is kind of the only part that really fits the original show.
Yeah.
And I'd seen Mission Impossible growing up. It was on. My mother loved the show. Looking back now, of course, it's fun to watch old episodes and go, well, there's the backlot. Up, there's the other backlot. Up, we're back in the backlot again. And, oh, hey, are they using magic marker and duct tape? Oh, dear gods, they are.
They weren't exactly overwhelmed with budget.
No, and this was like the big show Desilu was making at the end of the run of Star Trek. So this was Desilu's big show at the time. And you would see actors that would guest star from one. It was like literally, it's like, take off your Starfleet uniform. You're going to be in Mission Impossible tomorrow. And some of these same guys would be showing up back and forth. So all these character actors were there.
Hey, they had some impressive guest stars. I watched an episode last night, and it had Henry Gibson and Ed Asner in it.
Yeah. The old TV show, I had forgotten about this, but Martin Landau was right. The whole point, and this doesn't seem to ever happen in any other spy franchise ever.
No.
But the whole point of the IMF was to get in, do something, fix it, like some, usually a third world. Let's face it, let's get there right now. They go to Kreplakistan, and
yes, or Durkistan,
yeah, and they have to get some evil bad government guy out of the way. But the whole point is that people never realize that they were ever there in the first place.
Yeah, there are no gunfights, there's no fist fights.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe, or if there is, it means something's gone wrong. It's all about planning and deception. And also, there's a lot they keep from the audience.
Right.
They don't tell us what they're doing or what's happening. We sort of have to watch it unfold along with, in effect, the targets. It was, I think, a kind of unique sort of show. It's sort of like, it's one of the reasons one of my favorite cop shows of all time was Columbo. Because Columbo not only doesn't use a gun, I don't think he carries one, and he doesn't like them.
I'm sorry, I just want to jump in. He not only doesn't carry one, but there's a point where he has to pass his shooting test, and he actually gets somebody else to do it for him because he says, I can't hit the target.
And he never punches anyone. He never runs after or chases them in his car. It's all mind games. It's all he outthinks them. And that's what Mission Impossible was all about. It was out-clevering the enemy agents. By the way, they never say Russia or the Soviet Union. It's always the enemy or enemy country or the enemy agents, or, as Mike says, it's some made-up place like Kreplakistan or San Pseudonym.
Yeah. I love San Pseudonym. It's lovely in the summer.
It's a very nice place. The food's great.
Well, the one that I think we both watched the same one last night, mostly because you mentioned it to me. And the cool thing is at the end, the lead bad guy, they know he's really smart and he has a photographic memory. So they basically have to trick him into thinking he's figured out the plot against him. And what he ends up doing is going, haha, they think that I'm going to think this is the wrong information, but now I know it's the right information. Haha, I'm so smart. No, it isn't. It's the wrong information. They basically double blinded the guy, and they have he has no clue who these people are. So
he even says, I wish I knew who had masterminded this, but this will destroy him because he has lost. And it's like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we cut back to Peter Graves, and it's like, oh, yeah, he's the master. Yeah, sure. Okay.
Peter Graves, let's face it, he's not exactly the master of facial expression. I think he has a half.
And he can't out-wrestle a giant space cucumber, but whatever. So that's the old show. This one, obviously, Tom Cruise wanted to make an action film, and he wanted to make himself an action star, and by golly, he did.
He really did. This is very, very actiony. Now, they have the disguises, and they have the whole, you think that I know that you know that I know, but I know that you know I know that you know. You know?
There's a couple of times when that's happening, and I swear Tom Cruise is just sitting there like, huh?
I don't know. He's always got that smile, but it's the smile that says, I have no idea where I am right now.
That little Guido the Killer pimp smirk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be fair, I rag on Mr. Cruise. I mean, politics and whatever aside, he generally does fairly well in this, and he does most of his own stunts, partly in some cases because they literally couldn't get anybody to do. Some of them are like, okay, dump 6 million gallons of water on him. Let's just hope he doesn't catch a cold or something. And he's probably, 30 in this, maybe late 20s or like 30 when this was made. And he looks like he doesn't know how to shave because he doesn't have to. And he's very actiony, and he's fairly charismatic. And they went to Prague, which had only recently opened up from being a communist country, and so Prague had not been in a lot of movies, so it looks very exotic.
This might have been the first movie after Prague's, whatever you want to call it,
grand reopening.
Opening up. Grand reopening, yeah. They cut the ribbon and had the wavy-armed inflatable guys, yeah.
Yeah. And Prague looks great. I've wanted to go to Prague. I've heard nothing but great things about going there. When we do the IMF, the problem, of course, is that by all this jumping about and blowing things up, it's the only thing that's missing is all of the crowd members pointing at him and going, hey, who's that guy? Because it's not like he actually sneaks around all that much.
He doesn't do a lot that's covert. There's a couple of disguise moments.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah. And I got to give him this. I got to give the movie this. There are 2 guys who are major hackers, who are supposed to be major hackers in this. You got Emilio Estevez and Ving Rhames. And Ving Rhames is always cool to watch. And neither of them ever says, I'm in. And I respect that.
I do have to wonder, though, who installed the giant spikes in the ceiling of the elevator shaft? Why is that a thing?
That's a very weird feature, the murder spikes at the top of the elevator.
In case of rapid rising, we installed these spikes to pierce the top of the elevator car, because... Sure.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like Ving Rhames in here. He will, of course, return as Luther.
Many times.
Which is cool. Because there's a couple of people who popped up in here and it's like, oh, cool. And one of them was Ving Rhames and the other is Jean Reno, who I will watch in just about anything. It's
Jean
only
Reno
too bad
is awesome.
Yeah, the only too bad part is, spoiler, he's pretty much a bad guy. Yeah. But you can't get, he is so... we are born as the grave.
You absolutely believe he would kill somebody.
Yes. Well, and if you have not seen The Professional or Leon the Professional, which is Jean Reno and a very young Natalie Portman.
Yeah, and a very crazy Gary Oldman.
One of our favorites, is a great film, and you just believe he is like the coolest of cool French. Jean Reno is just great. We need more Jean Reno in our lives.
We do.
So I was very glad to see those guys, and they made interesting members of the force. The makeup, one of the things that they used to do in the old TV show a lot, mostly with Roland Hand / Martin Landau, and I think Leonard Nimoy took over the character that did all the makeup.
Yeah, I think that's right.
is you didn't buy it back then, and quite honestly, you don't buy it now.
The magic of rubber face or latex now face masks. I'm like, no, none of them are that good. I'm sorry. They're good at a distance.
Right.
That's what they're designed for. But up close, come on.
Well, and there's 2 points where Cruise is pulling off a mask, and I want to say, and I don't know if this is true, but I want to say that they actually used CG in the pulling off of the mask, because the face, up until it's actually coming off, is very much whoever he's supposed to be. So if it's supposed to be where he plays John Voight, he's pretending to be Mr. Phelps. Spoiler. It is John Voight sitting there, and then when he does the mask thing, I think there's CG higgery pokery,
probably
Husker Du, whatever. But you can see that the mask itself looks like it's made out of Play-Doh. It's like really thick, and it's like you can't add like a whole layer of head and not make it look like, why are you wearing somebody's head? I mean, it just wouldn't work.
Also, Tom Cruise and John Voight are built very differently, and it's very clear when he takes off the coat that he is in fact wearing the Bruno Kirby Memorial fat suit underneath.
Is that a nice thing to say about Mr. Voight? I'm sure that with proper exercise, he has a perfectly reasonable build for a man of his age.
Mr. John Voight is not fat. He is big.
Yeah.
He is just large. Big shoulders. He's built on, and Tom Cruise is not. Tom Cruise is not a large gentleman.
He's very nicely built. I mean, Mr. Cruise keeps himself in good shape, so we'll do that.
Yeah, I got to say, some of the other performers in this, Emmanuelle Berndt, who plays Claire, Jim Phelps' wife.
Yeah, I know she is.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for
I think she does a nice job, and part of it is just she is so freaking beautiful.
Her upper lip is weird.
Her lips are gorgeous. And that voice, oh my God.
I thought she was fine. The reason I don't have any higher opinion is they don't let her do anything.
She doesn't have a lot to do. The one I loved, and I was like, the first time I saw this, I was like, who is that? Who's that playing? Well, first of all, by the way, the name of the big bad that they're going to sell the knock list to, perfect.
Max.
Yep, perfect. The most menacing, intimidating, imposing name known to man. And that's Vanessa friggin' Redgrave.
And she's
Oscar
wonderful.
winner, Shakespearean actress, I think dame at this point, I'm not sure. Vanessa friggin' Redgrave. And she is just having so much fun with that part.
I think she's the best casting in the film, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Because we're obviously supposed to think that Max, the weapons dealer, is a guy. And then when we meet her, it's like, oh no, it's much better than that. And she's just so classy. And the time when she's sitting there, she's
in
like,
charge.
Well, and when she's sitting there like stroking, he's like, oh dear boy. And it's like, oh my God, look at her cougaring about. But it's not gross. It's
both adorable and terrifying.
Yeah. And he's doing that little smirk, and it's like, yeah, it's not working. I don't buy it. She has you. She was a great villain.
She was. Even the byplay between them, there's this sort of, they're both being really cautious, but they're both kind of enjoying it. They're both kind of having fun. It's like that. I wish I had seen more of that, because the interactions between Ethan Hunt and Max is the best part of the movie, I think.
I would think so. The first thing we see from makeup is, we see Tom Cruise playing some anonymous thug, Russian bad guy, undercover fudgy fortress, whatever thing. And it's fine. We see it through a TV screen, which is quite honestly the best way to see it. He takes it off and we see, it's a mask. The next one, though, he's playing some senator. And it was sort of like watching a movie in 4K, except that one character was shot in 720. He was a little smoothed over.
Yeah, he was kind of blurry. He was weird looking.
Yeah, and his voice, quite honestly, if you'd ever met Tom Cruise, you'd be like, Mr. Cruise, why are you wearing that old man wake up? It's like it wasn't much of a race. And I wasn't sure if we were supposed to know. Like when they first show, it's like, oh, we're going to use Waltzer. And they show Tom Cruise and the team watching some footage of this guy Waltzer. And I'm like, oh, is he a real guy or not? Because the next scene, we see Tom Cruise as Waltzer. And it's like, that's convenient. Like there just happens to be a senator that looks enough like you that you can put on some makeup and a tuxedo and you're him. I don't know.
I did like him being interviewed by John McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Because all I'm thinking is, so you say this mission is impossible. Wrong! Capture Bond! Pat Buchanan! Patty Puke Puke!
I meant to look this up, but one of the bad guys, a very tall, imposing man with long blonde hair, I believe, is Necros from one of the James Bond films.
Oh, God. That was the first of somebody's.
It was Timothy Dalton's.
That's right. That was one of the first Timothy Dalton.
Living Daylights. Necros
okay.
in that film was a very tall, I think he was originally a dancer. And thankfully there was a scene, a very important scene to the plot, where he's getting out of the pool in a Speedo.
It was essential to the plot.
Essential. That is the whole film rested on the fulcrum of that scene.
Yep.
But I believe that was Necros. I don't remember the actor's name, unfortunately.
Yeah, Necros. I remember that. It's like, wow, why did you just call him Murder von Killington?
Whatever you say, Murder von Killing, dude. Yeah, there's some stylistic choices in this film. This is Brian De Palma, who's not usually known for big budget action-y films. He does much more art house and violent and that kind of film.
Weird, sexy, thriller, disturbing, murdering women movies.
And in general, his directing is fine, but he does a couple of things, or at least one thing that I was like, why are you doing this? There's some first-person camera work that I'm just like, they're talking directly to the camera, and I'm like, why are you doing this? That
was unsettling, because it didn't fit the rest of the movie. I think he was just being a little experimental, and that part I don't think worked.
I didn't for me either. So in the beginning, they're doing their little shtick. They're breaking in, they're getting their information. And it's like, oh, now we have to go and get this stuff. And then the IM Force, or can't say IM Force. Yes, no, IM Force, not IMF Force. There we go.
Right.
The IM Force starts getting picked off. I didn't notice this, but apparently there's 7 giveaways in the opening title where they're doing little flashes of things. Apparently they give things away in that opening sequence. I didn't pay attention, and so I didn't notice.
Didn't see.
But they actually play it off pretty well. And one of the things you see is, and apparently this is one of the things that Martin Landau et al. Were not pleased with, was that Jim Phelps, one of the longest, he was not the original leader of the IMF, but one of the longest running characters from the original movie gets killed off. And, I thought that actually worked really well. I bought it. Did you when you first saw it?
When I first saw it, I absolutely bought it. I was like, oh, wow, okay. I figured, they just couldn't afford to have Jon Voight for the whole movie. So they killed him off. But I had no... And then, but then he comes back.
Yeah, he had to go off as a Tomb Raider.
That is a sequence I thought was really interesting. There's a scene where he meets up with Hunt, and they're sitting in a restaurant, and they're talking... They're describing what happens, and Phelps is putting the blame on this guy, Kittredge, who is set up to be a bad guy, even into the audience. He's like, oh, this is the annoying, bureaucratic, jerky. Oh, of course, he's actually the traitor. And you see it flipping back and forth in the conversation, and in effect, a sequence that's supposed to be inside Hunt's head, where he is piecing together what happened, only he's realizing it was Phelps.
Right.
And the conversation has this really nice double-edged meaning to it, where Phelps thinks they're talking about Kittredge, and Hunt is going, it's you. But he's not saying it. He's just visualizing and he's figuring it out. And I thought that was really interesting.
I liked it, too. The only problem I had, and I listened to this movie with earphones last night, or AirPods, whatever, that Cruise mumbles... enough of his lines that there's points in that dialogue with them together where I can't tell if basically Phelps is admitting that he did it or somehow Hunt knows that he did it, and they're both agreeing that, you're telling me a story, but I don't buy it. And I got confused. When I remember being confused when I first saw it, and I was confused. Well, I know what is happening, but I'm listening, and I'm like, Tom, I don't know what you just said. And the way his facial expressions look like he's starting to suspect, obviously because he's thinking about it, Phelps. And it's like when Phelps gives the reason for why he thinks Kittredge is doing that, he's like, look, all the good, cool stuff is done. And what have you got to show for it? But $60,000 a year, blah, blah, blah. And it's obvious that what Phelps is doing is he's saying his own motivations for having sold out. And it feels a little bit too much like... he's admitting it, and I got a little confused. But otherwise, the idea, the sort of double switcheroo super caramel yum plot there, I thought actually worked pretty well, and that did feel like old Mission Impossible. So yeah, I thought that worked pretty well. But then we realized Tom Hunt or Ethan Cruz, take your pick. They realize after he gets caught, he actually goes in to meet Kittredge, and Kittredge is sitting there like, yeah, here's your passports, we'll get you out and everything. And Ethan Hunt somehow is smart enough to realize that he's being set up again, and that all of the people around him are people that he's seen during the night, and they actually were another IMF group that were, it was all a sting. The whole thing was just basically like, we know there's a mole, we're trying to catch the mole. There is no, real, you're not part of a real thing. Those guys are just watching to see which one of you basically makes it out alive, and we'll know we have our mole. And that's when they blow up the poor aquariums, and they're splashing and running away. And now they have to go after the real
all those
knock
poor
list.
fish.
And let's talk about the plot to get into CIA headquarters, shall we?
Yeah. Wow.
So
CIA security sucks.
Well, my note was: is the CIA really that dumb? Because they get Ving Rhames, smart. They get Jean Reno. Mistake, but understandable, because it's Jean Reno, and heck, I'd want him on my side. And I don't know that he's necessarily a bad guy. He's just willing to work for whoever's got the most money.
He's very mercenary, yeah.
The problem is their whole idea is like they tell you why they can't get into this vault, because it's got all these things, and you can't be in there. You can't get past this, that, the other thing. You'll never get in unless you go through the
enormous
small army ventilation system, because all right, fine, so you go through ventilation system. This isn't the first movie to do that. It won't be the last. I will tell you right now, having seen ventilation systems, that those aluminum corridors that you go through really aren't meant to hold up a person.
No, you would fall through almost immediately.
So then you get to the amazing laser net thing that you can get by with a couple mirrors, basically.
Yeah, that was my big problem. That was a big problem. Yes, you could theoretically redirect. I mean, it's obviously not like lasers to cut you in half. They're just a detection system.
Which you can see.
Could yeah, that's the other problem. The visible lasers, ladies and gentlemen, from the brightly lit room below.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could redirect them with a series of mirrors. It would take either hours or a computer rig to calculate the angles. There's no way you could just go, I'll just put this here. Clunk.
Yeah. Then, of course, we see them sweating because it's, so tense and everything. Why is it so hot in an air conditioning vent?
Yeah, I don't.
Don't know. But also, okay, they have all the team members are doing things. And they have, besides Jean Reno and Tom Cruise up in the air conditioning vent that's really hot for whatever reason, they've got the rest of the team coming in as firemen who literally walk in the building and say, we're here about the alarm. What alarm? We haven't had an alarm go off. And then Ving Rhames is like, click, 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 click. Oh, the alarm went off. Good thing you're here, firemen we didn't call.
Yeah, and not to mention let's go. Okay, we're going to take 3 of you. We're going to send 1 security guard with you.
Yeah.
We're not. I'm sorry. Unless people are in immediate danger, they would have also insisted on getting identification, or at least taking pictures of these firemen
or something.
And then Emmanuel Beert just sort of starts wandering around the building, dosing that poor civil servant who ends up getting sent off to Alaska.
Yeah, and there's not one keypad lock, one magnetic card swiper, nothing. She just walks into the commissary.
Yeah, just walks around, no security. Yeah, that's a bit much.
And then it's like, oh no, an alarm goes off. We should evacuate everybody. This is the CIA? Really? And so
you don't want to confirm the existence of the fire. You don't want to check. They have their own people who do this.
Yeah,
they have their own rapid response teams.
So you end up with a foe in this case, because we're all rooting for Ethan Hunt, who's kind of bumbling. And it's like, I hate it when they do that. It's like, so-and-so's really capable until we need them to bumble, because we literally can't outthink the people we have in our own film. Okay, and I get the idea. Oh yeah, we need to get the knock list and stuff. Since the plan, as it turns out, is to never actually let them use the knock list, do they actually really need?
Yeah, I was wondering. I mean, I guess they have to verify it. They have to, but they could have dummied up something.
Well, I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I also am curious. There's a whole plot point. Jean Reno is the one who's holding up Ethan just by pure muscle, and a rat crawls into the vent with him.
Sure it does.
And it happens, rats get everywhere. And then suddenly there's the next shot, the rat's dead.
Right. He stabbed it with his knife.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
I'm surprised at the part you didn't bring up, and this is why you don't make tech a major part of your film. It doesn't hold up. Is when Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt, is trying to figure out who the actual bad guy was that killed his team and set them up. And he finds out through a slip from Kittredge that it was something called Job 13, which he figures out is actually
Job
a
314.
biblical, which is a biblical reference.
Job 314.
And so he goes
to
the internet.
I was going to bring this up.
And
yes.
he types in the word Job, and there are no results. Not one.
Yeah.
Now, I had a website. Me, personally, I had a website in 1996. I do not believe that the word job or Job got no results on the entire internet, even in 1996.
And did you see what he then used, what apparently they were using to communicate? They were using Usenet. They were using Usenet groups and messaging. Really?
It's just so cute.
Yeah, I mean, now, I kind of get it. It was unregulated.
Uh-huh.
It's also massively insecure.
Right. Well, I love the fact that one of the first places he goes to is max.com, and there's nothing there. Are you kidding?
That was one of the... believe me, I tried to register that name. That got snapped up in 5 minutes.
I mean, this sort of off-balances the point that Ving Rhames and Emilio Estevez never say, I'm in. Because this kind of is the, I'm on the internet and I'm looking things up and there's nothing, I can't believe it. There's nothing under max.com. The word job, J-O-B,
I'm
nope,
surprised
no entries.
Surprised he wasn't logging in through AOL.
I mean, good old Usenet or, spy.die or whatever. It was just, this is the problem. Like whenever
that was very dated.
It's like, and of course there is the shots, the close-up shots of the lovely, sleek, black Apple notebook, which actually didn't exist at that point. It was fake. But it was like, and it has become a thing where we watch the hacker or whomever just tapping at keys and then looking at the screen and the thing pops up, whatever it is, or there's a 3D, user interface or, whatever. Just don't do that. Just,
No, it's really.
Yeah. And some of the other tech was just bad.
Like when Ving Rhames is talking about the machine he'd need, saying, I want the new 686 processor. It's like, ooh, the second generation Pentium.
Ooh, I have an emulator for that on my phone.
with the what got me was with the AI RISC coprocessor. It's like, I think you're making that up, Grandpa.
Yeah, and we're all supposed to be super impressed. The one thing I will give his character, and he's like, and I get to keep it. It's like, good. If you're going to get the top level has not been released, is not overseen by the government tech, by all means, you should get to keep it.
Oh, yeah. No, Ving Rhames, I had no trouble with him or his character. Not at all. Luther's awesome.
But the various tech, I mean, at least it wasn't a contact lens that somehow changes your retinal print and allows you to see. But whatever. So you just don't do that. Because you can do spy stuff that doesn't rely on the crux of whatever the tech either happens to be at this point or what you think it'll be. Because if whatever it is will age badly and what you think it'll be won't happen. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we got to talk about the sequence on the TGV, too.
Oh, shall we?
Yes, that's the bullet train. I have been on this thing. It's a maglev train. It is friggin' fast.
Yeah.
And it's very cool. But some of the stuff that happens, that's when we really get to the I call no way moments.
Well, my thought was they actually should have titled this film Helicopter Explosion Tunnel. And I think in German, that's actually how it translates.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I mean, never mind that Tom Cruise and John Voight are climbing on the outside of this thing that is going somewhere on the order of 300 miles an hour.
Sure.
And not simply having their faces ripped off.
Well, and to be
then
fair,
Jean Reno is maneuvering a helicopter inside a tunnel.
Yeah.
Somebody just
Especially when the other train comes through. It's like, oh yeah, there's plenty of room for one train, a helicopter, and another train. No problem.
Yeah. A friend of mine who's got his pilot license described this to me once. I was saying, did you ever want to learn to fly a helicopter? And he said, no. Flying a helicopter is like balancing a steel ball bearing on a plate of glass.
Cool.
Yeah. It's incredibly hard all the time. There's no way he could have been dragged behind a train and not just gone bouncing off the damn walls.
Yeah. And of course the end part where the now chopped apart and sharpened helicopter blade just happens to rest right at Tom Cruise's throat. He almost died. It's so sad.
That didn't bother me as much as
Really?
the fact that he's sitting on the helicopter strut. He sets off an explosive. The explosion is powerful enough to throw him onto the 300-mile-an-hour train
Safely.
and he doesn't liquefy.
It's kind of like once we got to that sequence in Helicopter Explosion Tunnel 1, that I was fine with the stunts and stuff. It was, things were a little bit high end, but they were fine. And then they were just like, hope you like our show.
Yeah, it kind of gets cartoonish, and it's unfortunate because the rest of the movie isn't.
No, and what I would have actually believed and been better off with is doing the stunt where outside the tunnel, where I still think it's like, really, this is your idea to get off the frickin' maglev train, is to have somebody show up with a helicopter and then rope yourself to it and fly off.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Sure.
We're going to do that. His whole point, this is Mr. Phelps's point, was to connect the rope coming from the helicopter to himself and then be taken off the train. Hunt comes up and attaches the cable on the helicopter to the train. At that point, if the helicopter had crashed, I'd have been totally fine with it.
Yeah, that would have made some sense. I would have been okay with that too, yeah. Or if they had just gone into the tunnel and he would hit the tunnel, which was much more likely.
Right. Apparently, Mr. Cruise searched all over to get a fan that was high enough power to actually distort his face. Like, he really wanted it to look that windy. And it was. So, he didn't shy away from it. And he still doesn't. He still does a lot of his own stuff.
He throws himself into this stuff 100%.
He does.
And he does get to run. He does like his running.
And I will say he does give the impression of being tough enough. I just don't know that he gives the impression of being smart enough.
I didn't really have that problem. I like the thing that he comes across, that he really gets across, is the I don't trust anybody. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know what kind of a world I'm in. I know what a business I'm in, and I don't trust anyone because you couldn't.
No.
In a situation like that, and I think he does a really good job of that.
And to be fair, obviously we will see more of these.
A
lot more of them. And
Very likely.
You could say that this is the junior officer coming of age, if you will. And so now he's, oh no, I'm quitting. Wink. And I don't think I've seen a bigger sequel beg. Like, this movie gets on its back feet and sits up and begs for a sequel. It honestly does. Because he literally ends the film the way it was started, except, you mean you would like me to take the Secret Mission tape from your platter of lovely, delicious other tapes, and I just happen to see that there's a new mission I'm going to expect? An impossible mission, if you will?
Did they really do that in the 90s on planes, even in first class? Did they have stewardesses walking around saying, would you like to watch a movie? I've got a tray of tapes here.
I mean, in super ultra high class, probably.
Okay, I don't even remember ever hearing. I never saw that in a movie before. That's the only time.
Well, I think British Airways now actually has super high first class where you can request films that have not yet been made. It's kind of expensive.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I want to see a Mission Impossible 22. Mission Impossible goes to assisted living.
We might as well throw this in. We haven't done this in a while. At least we get one good black central character. Thank you for that little bit of diversity. Ving Rhames is great. I'll watch him in just about anything too. And I actually they said they specifically cast against type. They wanted a hacker that didn't look like a little nerdy guy.
And he does not look like your traditional hacker.
But he doesn't make me think, it's just Ving Rhames pretend. I totally bought him as the hacker guy. He was fine.
Yeah. Yep, he did a great job.
The women in this film have literally, nothing to do except for Max, who is awesome.
Who is awesome. Yes, the women mostly show up. Hello, I'm dead,
Yeah.
or hello, I'm a traitor, and you have no idea why, just because I'm married to the traitor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought he was her father.
Yeah, that's a little creepy, because John Voight has got to be about 30 years older than Emmanuel Beert in this movie.
And it's like, could they not have written a part? I guess apparently in the original script there was supposed to be, or maybe even they shot this part, there was supposed to be not only the suggestion, but the actual evidence that Ethan was hanging out with Claire, shall we say?
Oh, okay.
But it's like, I could easily. So Rene Russo was hired to do the updated version of Thomas Crown Affair, and she was amazing.
Yeah.
She was. I think at that point she was either well into her 40s or close to 50. She looked amazing. She did a great job. It was a great part, and it showed that, hey, you know what? Older women, meaning older than 25, Hollywood.
Yeah.
We should see more of them in films. I would rather have seen a more age-appropriate character be Jim's wife and be perfectly fine as one of these IMF people. The original show had Barbara Bain, who she was supposed to be really beautiful. I always just thought she looked like someone's mom, but she was also probably well into her 30s. She wasn't unattractive. She was supposed to be glamorous, and I just never found anything glamorous about her. But there was no reason not to have a character like this be his wife, that we didn't have to have Jail Beatrice or whatever her name was. Claire Beatrice. But we should get to our
questions.
Does this movie capture the feeling of its source material?
A little, not very much. I mean, as we said, the original show was more about out clevering and out planning, and not about out blowing up or such. However, it's true, there are no gunfights. There's very little actual violence. I mean, apart from blowing up and elevators killing people. I think to a degree. I think it does to a point, and then it just jumps off and goes into like Michael Bay territory.
You mean the channel? It jumps off and goes into the channel.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the gadgets are certainly from the original show, although the original gadgets were obviously made out of like little bits lying around. I mean, they really did not have a huge budget for the original show, but they also didn't. Occasionally they do. There's one I was watching last night, which involved a security camera in a bank vault, and one of the gadgets was a little thing that would cause the picture to what they used to call rolling. The picture would roll, so it looked like things were not being. The camera was suddenly not working properly, and it was literally so Barbara Bain could have a photo of the inside of the vault go up into place, and she could just hang the photo, which somehow is exactly at the same angle and size, and nobody would notice anything. And it's like, I see what you're trying to do, but no. So they have the gadgets, and there is some of the opening of the film feels like the old show, and there is obviously some out-clevering here and there, but it really is more about exploding and stuff. So yeah, and I'll agree with Max, yes and no. Does this movie respect its source material?
I think so. I mean, I counted, by the way, we get that theme song no fewer than 4 separate times in this movie.
But it is cool.
It is cool. I mean, let's face it, for most people, the theme song is what people remember about the TV show. That's what lasted.
Right.
Most people don't know Peter Graves was on it. Most people don't know who the actors were or even what it was about. But everyone knows, dun, 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 dun.
I'm going to say no. And the reason I'm going to say no is they took the central character and made him a bad guy. And they don't really stick with the idea of the show was you're spies, you're not supposed to be seen, people aren't supposed to know who you are. In this film, admittedly, the only people that we're actually looking at any given point in time are spies. There's literally no other people who in this film are not spies. They're all CIA agents or IMF people or ex-IMF people or whatever. Disavowed. So everybody knows who everybody is, and there's no attempt to hide their blowings up and other stuff from other people really all that much. So that whole mind game that Martin Landau was talking about, they're not they're sort of trying to do it, but it's really just sort of sneaking in. It's not even let's convince these people we are totally the people who are supposed to be here, and making them change their minds about what they're doing or getting their ill-gotten, Nazi gains away or whatever. So I think they wanted to do it, and then they just sort of forgot about it being Mission Impossible.
This is much more about being reactive. You see these people, Hunt is basically reacting to the situation, whereas the show was about knowing the situation and planning and working things out ahead of time.
And being clever.
Yeah.
Does this movie take it? Oh God! Does this movie take advantage of the fact that it's a movie and not an episode? Yes.
Yes, that's
80
really all you
million.
gotta
Yes.
say. Yes, very big. Boom, boom. Train goes. Zoom. Boom.
25 years. Blah blah blah.
Yes.
As for that, I'm out of my notes pretty much. How about you, Max?
I do think it was a nice touch that one of the things that tips off Hunt about Phelps is the Bible. That Phelps stole a Bible from the Drake Hotel, and I'm thinking he stole I keep thinking of the line from Jewel of the Nile, the man who shot my father, stabbed my brother, raped my mother, and stole my Bible. You monster Bible stealer.
I was just like, why would he keep it with him? We're in Prague. Do you really think you can't find a Bible in Prague?
I don't know. They were just being careful. Well, maybe not in English.
Now, to be fair, I do remember a particular episode of Mission Impossible, the show, where they're trying to convince this guy he's somewhere else. And he finally just goes a little nuts and picks up a chair. And on the bottom of the chair is the name of the rental company in Los Angeles that they got it from. And they actually are about to blow their job. And so I don't know if this is a callback to that, but it just sort of felt like, I don't know why this is here.
that was really the only other thing I had.
Well, then we should get to the roundup.
The roundup.
So, Max.
Yes.
You saw it when it came out. What did you think when it came out?
Well, I thought it was cool when it came out, except I remember when it came out, I found it kind of confusing because there were so many characters and all of this, double and triple crossing, and this whole thing was, I remember it being a bit confusing. But eventually, you catch up. Because as it goes along, it gets simpler and simpler until it's two guys fighting on a train.
Yeah. Well, when a helicopter and a tunnel love each other very, very much.
Yeah. Yeah, I was impressed by it. I mean, it was also... 1996, for that level of action and those stunts were really impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about you?
Well, no, what do you think about it now?
I think it holds up. I think it still works. I can see some of the cracks in it, and again, the tech stuff is a little dated, or a lot dated. And the background nature of most of the women is a little annoying, but yeah, I think it holds up. I think it's pretty good. I don't think it's spectacular, but I think it was well done. How about you? You saw it when it came out?
I did.
What did you think? What was your first impression?
I'm sure that I actually really liked it. I hadn't developed my Tom Cruise allergy or whatever you want to call it at that point. And it was fun. It was big. I mean, let's face it, the only real action films we've had like this throughout the years have been Bond films. And while I generally like Bond films, even the really bad ones... I'm looking at you, View to a Kill. See our previous entire series on James Bond.
Stacy, look out. A blimp.
You'd have to wait, 2 or 3 years or more for another Bond film to show up. And that stuff's fun. It's not believable, but it's fun. And I remember coming out of this thinking that was a lot of fun. And I didn't, because I hadn't seen Mission Impossible the show in a long while, I didn't get the whole, this isn't really Mission Impossible. It's just Tom Cruise blowing things up. And I was fine with it, and I enjoyed it. Watching it this time, I don't think it ages very well. The tech is more the problem. Well. Max.com, it's not taken. Okay. To be fair, maybe in No, it was. I'm sorry. If I had a website in 96, somebody had Max.com. They just did.
Yeah.
The gadgetry was always a little hinky in the show, so I can give them some, leeway with that. And I was actually not too bad with the film until the helicopter scene, which might as well have Bugs Bunny on the train and Daffy Duck in the helicopter, because it's ridiculous. It makes no sense. It does not work. it is thrilling, it's intriguing, and the idea of the film, of course, spy stuff's always a good bit of fun. I don't think this film holds up that well, but it's harmless.
Yeah,
You know,
it's entertaining.
yeah, sure. I remember liking some of the other ones better, although the stunts get just dumber and dumber, honestly. And that's the sad thing, is that they think they have to make them bigger and bigger, and they don't. They just have to be good. You know,
Yeah.
The whole opening sequence of the first Daniel Craig James Bond film is him chasing a parkour expert. There's no tech at all, and everything the guy did, he did. Like, and you can do that. I was like, I just leapt 4 stories down through a stairway because I can, and the guy can, and I was like, holy crap. There's nothing exploding. There's no guns. I mean, there's a little bit of shooting, but it's like, we don't need helicopters in a tunnel. That was exciting. It was thrilling. You don't have to make, Drax or Jaws or, any of that stuff. We don't need that stuff.
Or Necros.
Gonna disagree. Vital to the plot of that film. But yeah, so that's where we are. Kudos to bringing back an old show that had a cool premise. Not so kudos for not really sticking to the premise and having some weird helicopter tunnel sex, but whatever. Remember, in German, it's called Helicopter Explosion Tunnel. But Max, well, first we have our poll question, which was, has product placement, and if you don't know what product placement is, it's where a company pays to have their product, whatever it is, obviously used in a film so you can't miss it and think, I want to buy that. Has product placement ever worked on you? Have you actually ever bought anything or wanted to buy anything in a film because it was in a film? Do let us know, and you can let us know by emailing us at maxmikemovies.com, which of course implies, and it's true, we have a website, which is maxmikemovies.com. All our previous episodes where you can leave comments, yada, yada, yada. We are on the podcast app of your choice and the podcast app not of your choice, including the Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, so on and so forth. And, of course, social media, because that's still a thing, although apparently it keeps going up, then down again, then up, then down. Poor old Facebook. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant Meta. Anyway, we are on Facebook and Twitter. Please subscribe to our sad little 6-person Twitter. We are Max Mike Movies in both places. But Max, we are continuing to Made from TV Love You next week.
Yes.
How are we doing so?
Next week, we are going for another, hyper-realistic show that sort of faded, but is enjoying a bit of a resurgence, but was made into a movie back in the fabulous 80s.
Oh, we're going way back. Okay.
Yes, indeed, with that iconic, subdued, understated character, He-Man! We are going to watch Masters of the Universe because they could not get themselves to actually call it the He-Man movie, which actually I think there had already been one, an animated one.
Wait, you don't mean the Dolph Lundgren one, do you?
I mean the one with Dolph Lundgren and Frank Langella.
And Billy Barty?
Billy Barty, Courtney Cox, yep.
I don't have the power to watch this film again.
You do. We totally both have the power.
This has been a co-production of The Voice of Max and The Movie Wrench.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, London Symphony Orchestra.